Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your host for today's show is B Alan Bourgeois. We hope you do enjoy today's show.
Hi, and welcome to the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. We appreciate you either listening or watching our show. Today, I have with me Michael Earney, who is a published author of many books. They're called the A to Z series, and you'll understand why in just a moment. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Alan. Good to see you.
Too. So let's start off with what is this A to Z series and how did it get started?
Well, the A to Z series is, as it sounds like, A to Z of various things. What I usually do is I write a list, depending on what the subject is, of course. I write down a list of A to Z, and then I put in by each letter of the alphabet a object that relates to the book that is in that alphabetical letter. Sometimes I actually start with a painting, but very often I'll start with the A and say start with that and then do all the research I can on that particular object under that particular letter of the alphabet, and then start writing my text. Now, these books, as you will, if we get to take a look, each book is one page, a full page painting, and then the text is another full page facing that. So there's only one page to talk about each of those things, which means I have to do a lot of editing and a lot of work getting it down to the basics. But I've been an editor a lot. I used to make films. So I am pretty good at paring things down, getting them down to the basics and getting as much information across by using as few words as possible. And that's what I hope to do in these books.
So if I remember correctly, your first one is A to Z birds. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. Yeah. And that's the same thing I started by. In that case, I started with doing the paintings and then started doing the research and the writing of the text for each of the birds. And it starts with the A for albatross.
Now, a lot of your books, you have a wide variety of stuff. You have cats, yes. You have turtles, yes. Wildflowers, you have, what else? Mushrooms, cats, I think, masks. I'm just looking behind your shoulder and seeing a whole bunch of different things.
Yes.
So when you're putting that list together, are you looking for specifically something that may be more unusual, or are you going with common things? How are you coming up with that list?
Well, I didn't start out with the idea of doing a series. It just happened once I'd done the A to Z of birds that I had done some illustrations for another book on wild edible plants. And so I thought, well, I've got paintings of edible plants and I know a little bit about them. So I decided that would be my next book. So, and that's, I started on that and did the same format as the birds. And then I was at the botanical gardens in Corpus Christi selling those books. And the director of the botanical gardens said, "Oh, I wish there was a book like this of wildflowers." So I said, well, I guess that's for me to do. And that was the next one I did. And it's just gone on from there. When a subject interests me, then I think, well, okay, let's do an A to Z book on that subject. And so I learn stuff, and then I pass that learning, hopefully in an amusing and somewhat cut down way to other people.
Now, the A to Z series is not the only type of books you've written. You've written some fiction books too, correct?
Yes, I have a couple of fiction books. They're in the back there. There's a couple of detective stories, And one, the first one that I did of fiction, I used to live on a ranch just outside of Blanca. It was a very large ranch, and I took walks out there. And some of the valleys on that ranch were very, very deep and big and remote. And it reminded me of the Indian in California, Ishi, of which there's a book about, who was supposedly the last of his tribe. His tribe went into the mountains, up into a canyon, when the settlers came, and they actually lived up there for 40 years without anybody knowing they were there. And so that inspired this book, which has a group of Indians living in Texas in a valley, and a young boy gets lost, Kevin, and he meets Agla, and Agla takes him in, and he becomes part of the tribe in that valley. So that's that.
And what was the title of that book?
It's Agla and Kevin.
Okay. And then you have the murder mystery one as well. If I remember that correctly, that's set in South Texas.
That's Corpus, yeah, and it is set in Corpus and Port Aransas. And of course, Corpus stands for body, and so there is a body. So that's why I named it Corpus. And then the other one is it's Be Not Deceived. And I use the same detective, so it's set in the same location, although the woman who is, I guess, the main character actually she actually lives in Wimberley, and then she goes to Sicily. So we go with her on those things too. So it takes place in Wimberley, Sicily, and Port Aransas. And it's a murder mystery.
So it definitely goes around South Texas area, which is nice.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So realizing, of course, the A to Z is your largest collection of books. Are you planning on writing any more fiction books?
Any more, which books?
Fiction.
Well, I don't have anything in mind at the moment. I have started one some time ago, which involves that same detective. And I haven't gone any much further with it because I've been concentrating on the A to Z's. I might get back to it. I don't know. It depends on my mood and what comes over me. I'm actually just finishing off another A to Z book. So once that's finished, maybe I'll start thinking about fiction again. I don't know.
Okay.
Now this picture, excuse me, this book over my right shoulder, The Magic Faces, is actually preceded all the A to Z's. It's the same format in as far as there's one picture of a mask, Mexican mask, on one page, and text talking about the mask on the other. Now, that came about because I did the whole series of paintings of Mexican masks. There were over 30 of them. And when I showed them at galleries, and I showed them actually in the municipal palace down in Mexico, down in San Luis Obispo, yeah. And I had written a little bit of information about the paintings that go beside the painting on the wall, and they actually translated some of that. So I thought, well, I should do the same with all of them. And so I increased the information on the paintings, and then I got them all translated into Spanish. So that's a bilingual book of my paintings. And it's to say, it's the same kind of format, but I didn't really think about it that much when I started on the A to Z. But when I looked at them, I say, well, they actually are very much similar in format.
We only have just a few seconds left, so I want to ask one last question. In reference to the masks, these masks are found from all around South America, is that correct?
No, they're all Mexican. So they're all Mexican, but all over Mexico. And so there's an enormous range of masks. from different tribes and different places in the country. Yeah.
Great. All right, well, we're at that point. We need to stop, let our sponsors do their thing. We'll be right back. Welcome to B4R.store, a bookstore for indie readers and indie authors, where indie authors can earn their fair share from the books you purchase. We have a wide variety of genres that you can select from. We also have ebooks and paperbacks. You can select authors by their first names, and we also have music. If you're interested in their city or country, we have that listed as well. If you are an author and would like to be on our bookstore, we have 3 options for you. There is a small minimal charge, or you can join our organization at authorsmarketing.org and learn how to better market and sell yourself. That is B4R.store, a bookstore for indie readers and indie authors.
Hi, I'm Charles Brakefield.
And I'm Rox Berkey.
Together, we write as Brakefield and Berkey.
Our techno-thriller series is 12 books strong, with book 13, The Enigma Tracer, planned for 2022.
Techno-thrillers are the cyber good guys versus today's darknet thugs.
We added our series prelude, Out of Poland, a 1939 historical novella, in 2021.
We also have 8 short stories available in family and women's contemporary genres, with more planned for 2022.
Please visit our website, enigmaseries.com, to learn more about why we say technology is today's weapon of choice. Thank you.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your host for today's show is B Alan Bourgeois. We hope you do enjoy today's show.
Again. Hi, and welcome back. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. You are either watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, and we greatly appreciate that. We've been talking with Michael Earney, who has a collection of books, A to Z's, Mexican Mass, some fiction books, and we're going to talk about his last 2 books that have come out, and I believe it was A to Z of Turtle Island. Is that correct? Was
Yes.
second to last? So tell us about that. First off, where is Turtle Island?
Well, we're actually on Turtle Island. Actually, North America, I guess, was named Turtle Island by the natives here. When the settlers came, they were told that this was Turtle Island. And the story behind it being Turtle Island is that before there was any land, it was all sea, and the sea creatures decided that there should be some land for people. Why they would think that, I don't know. But they did, and so they sent the muskrat down to the bottom of the ocean. He came back up with some soil, which they stuck on the back of a turtle, and that became Turtle Island, and people started living there. And here we are.
Now, interesting enough, I know some of the history of Central Texas, specifically Austin, in that area and stuff, and it was all under seawater at one time. A lot of the United States was and stuff.
That's
so
right.
that makes sense in that story concept. But so the A to Z of Turtle Island, then what is specifically the A to Z items?
Well, it's actually an A to Z of tribes of the United States. I stuck to just the North America. I do have the Inuit people in there, and but otherwise it's from one side of the country to the other, top and bottom, tribes that occupied this land before the settlers came. And of course, some of them are still here, but a lot of them got wiped out. And so it's, again, writing about them.
Out of curiosity, did you get all of the tribes, or is there some missing out of the book?
Well, there's many, many, many hundreds that are missing from the book because, of course, I did one tribe per letter of the alphabet.
So you have a secondary book that you could easily do, from what it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. But that's like the Mexican mask, for that matter. When I was painting those, I thought I could spend the rest of my life doing masks of the world, because just about every people in the world at some time had masks, and of course, a lot of them still use them. So that's another possibility. But it's true of all of them. Of course, I could do another A to Z of birds, could do another A to Z of flowers, but I would probably find that kind of boring. I prefer to get onto new subjects, and I will probably go on to new subjects. If I get to the point where I need to write a book and I can't think of anything new, then maybe I will go back to one of those. I don't know.
So let me ask you this. Your books have been out for a while. So have some of your readers submitted new birds or Indian tribes or any of the A to Z items for your consideration for possibly another book?
Well, the only thing in that area was that when I finished the A to Z of cats, a lot of people said, oh, now you're going to have to do an A to Z of dogs. But I have not done that yet.
Which makes sense.
Maybe that will come. I don't know.
Your last book then is A to Z of Gods. So
yes.
Give me some idea of that one, because I mean, that can go in a lot of different directions.
Well, the same thing, of course. There are gods all over the world. Different people came up with their own gods. And again, I had to, since I'm just doing one god per letter of the alphabet, I do my list, put all the A's that I can find, or B's and C's, et cetera, and then choose the one that I think is most interesting, or it's most interesting to me, or I can find the most information about, and that's the one I write about. Now, that book, and also The Agency of Turtle Island, I used copyright-free or public domain images rather than painting. I may have one or two of my paintings in them, but basically they're copyright-free images. And of course, there's so many great images out there, especially of Indian tribes, that I thought, why am I going to try to do that? You know, they're ones that were contemporary paintings of the Indians. Why not use those? So that's what I did. And again, it's just covering North America. So I could very easily cover the entire continent of Americas, both North and South America, with all the tribes that are still out there.
Right.
And
now, on average, if I understand correctly, it takes you approximately a year to do a book. Is that accurate?
That's about how long I take on them. It doesn't take me that long. I mean, I could do them quicker, but they cost me money to put them out there, and I'm not pushed in any way to get them out there. So I take my time and really do plenty of time on research, and I'm doing other stuff in the meantime, of course. So, in fact, that, as I say, with Gods and Turtle Island, I could have issued Turtle Island in the same, or Gods in the same year as Turtle Island. I just waited until this spring to put it out rather than doing it in the same year. And that's partly because I have just finished the A to Z of Goddesses, because again, having done a bit A to Z of Gods, I have to do an A to Z of Goddesses, and that will be issued sometime this year.
Cool. Now, you mentioned earlier that you were at the Botanical Gardens of Corpus Christi, if I remember correctly, and
yes.
Somebody mentioned they would love to see a book about wildflowers.
Yes.
So out of curiosity, if somebody approached you and said, we'd like to commission you to do a book of A to Z of something, would you consider that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I enjoy learning new things, and that's what these books do for me. I learn stuff in the process of researching, of course, and I also enjoy passing that information on to people. And I have found that I have an ability to, let's say, synthesize things down and get information across to people that is both informational and enjoyable, and hopefully give some people a laugh. I don't know. The other thing that I have done, and I started after The Agency of Birds, I start each book with a poem, and I never knew that I could write poems, but I started writing poems. And so each book now starts with a poem. And the other interesting thing, or at least interesting to me, each page at the bottom, I have a cool fact. And I mention that because it's often a fact that relates to the subject, but is not really about something, like it's not about a flower, but it's about maybe botanical things or it mentions a botanist or something like that. And that led me to the A to Z of Did You Know, which is full of that kind of stuff. The difference between that book and the others is that each page has little bits of information about lots of different things that come under that A. So again, the images, there might be 1, 2, or 3, or even 4 images to go with that particular page. But otherwise, it's the same situation. I start with the poem and I put as much information in there as I can.
We're just about at that point. We need to stop. But
Okay.
before we do, one last question. Your books are not only educational, obviously, but is there a particular age group that would benefit from these more than another, or is it just for everybody?
Well, when people ask me that question, I usually say that they're for beginners of all ages. Now, they're for me in the first place, so I'm not a kid, but I think that kids, and in fact, I know that kids do find them interesting, and that anybody can find both something to learn in them and something to amuse them and just simply enjoy the book and the pictures. So yes, in long answer, but anybody, and I think, well, if you're gonna select a group, then perhaps young adults. They can understand the words probably, because there's a lot of words in there that young kids can't understand, and just information that would be over the head of really, really young kids.
Okay. We're going to stop here and let our sponsors do their thing. We'll be right back.
Each and every one of us has a mission in life. Mine is to help people laugh through the good times and the bad. My name is Charlotte Canyon, and I'm an author, a speaker, and a host on Indie Beacon Radio. If you need me to speak at an event or autograph my book, you can contact me at charlotte@charlottecanyon.com. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Authors Marketing International, a membership-based organization where members learn how to better market and sell themselves. Join us at authorsmarketing.org. Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your host for today's show is B Alan Bourgeois. We hope you do enjoy today's show.
Welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show. I'm your host, B Alan Bourgeois. We thank you for watching or listening to the show on one of the many platforms we can be found on. I have been talking with Michael Earney about all of his books, his fiction books, as well as his A to Z collections and other things. And so with that, Michael, I do want to ask, what is your website so people can learn more about you and the books?
I have 2 websites, actually. One is www.michaelearney.com, and the other one is www.earneyworks.com. Both of them, but Earney Works was the original one, and it had my paintings, and it has my paintings, but my books are on there now too. But and actually, Michael Earney has my paintings too, but it's more oriented towards the books.
Okay. Now, since you have such an interesting collection of books and are definitely educational, people can email you to have you come and talk to their schools or events and stuff?
Absolutely, yes. I do readings at libraries, and I haven't done a school, but I've done several libraries. And yes, in fact, I've done readings and signings at bookstores. So I'm always interested in, if anybody's interested in my stuff, I'm interested in talking to them about it.
And of course, your books are available in all the major bookstores, correct?
Absolutely. But I always direct people to B4R as a place to, if they want to buy a book, to go there rather than going to Amazon, because I think they get a better price there than they do at Amazon.
And you do autograph the books there as well, if I understand correctly.
Yes, of course.
Great. Now that we're getting out of COVID, are you planning on being at festivals and things that people can come and meet you?
Yes, I am. I plan to do the Wimberley Festival that's in April.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm not too sure when the next one is. There's one, well, there's this, I'm not sure if I'm going to do the Seguin one or not. Oh, no, I am doing the Seguin one. I'm sorry. That's in June, I think, or July. And there's a couple of other ones in there that I do. And I put the information when I'm going to do one, I put it on my Facebook site to let people know that that's where I'll be on particular dates.
And your Facebook web page is Michael Earney?
Exactly.
Okay. Do you have any other social media accounts?
No.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Goddess is coming out sometime this year. Do you have any other books in the works?
No, as I say, I'm just today actually put the last image for a Z, for the A to Z of Goddesses. I've got to do the blurb on the back cover and get it all together and get it off to the, well, mostly it's already at the publisher, but I'm still wrapping that up. I have to look at the cover is about finished, but I've got to look at all these things and go through and of course reread it again and again and again, since unfortunately I can't really afford an editor, so I have to be my own editor. Luckily, I think I'm a pretty good editor, and so and if I can get somebody to look at it, I will, but generally speaking, people are too busy to do that.
Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps us up, ends our session. I want to thank you very much, Michael, for being with us, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this show, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Thanks again.
Thank you for watching the Indie Beacon Show, produced by B Alan Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC, copyright 2022, voiceover by B Alan Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please contact us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on this show, it is free to authors. Simply fill out the form at indiebeacon.com. The music is provided by Happy Follows. The music is entitled